There's a common saying, I'm sure you know, that life wasn't meant to be easy. Without being too pessimistic, we all face challenges and problems of some description throughout our lives. However, whether you treat these as a problem or an opportunity boils down to how you view and manage them. Today, I'm speaking with Don Elgin. Don is many things. He's a Paralympic medalist, motivational speaker, author, father, and very proud father of 4. He's also an ordinary bloke who's managed to achieve great, extraordinary things through hard work, grit, and determination. So today I have a query. I have 2 quotes that I would like to run by you. Whatever the problem, be part of the solution. Don't just sit around raising questions and pointing out obstacles. That's a quote from Tina Fey. And the other one, opportunities don't happen, you create them, from Chris Grosser. Hello, Don.
Oh, g'day, Kerryn. I tell you what, it is awesome when I hear that sort of stuff, like the intros, because what I think about ultimately in life, it's about, are you a decent human? And for me, that's a drive every day. My decisions, I think it's one of the reasons I can put my head on the pillow and be out like a light within seconds, is because I know I've had a crack at every day, and my vision in life is to leave decent people behind when I'm gone. And so if you come into my space, then I'm expecting it's going to be a positive encounter, and I'm going to do my best to make it that way.
Fantastic. And it's so amazing. I believe in synergy and 6 steps of separation and all that, because we were only connected last week through Hunter Leonard that I ran a podcast conversation with. And it turns out that you're also connected to our very close friend and network connection, Michelle Jella from the Start Foundation. So how did you get involved with Michelle?
Well, it's an interesting one, and a big shout out to Hunter. What a cracking bloke. We spent time on boards together and did a few different things, and that's pretty much how I got involved with Michelle. Michelle reached out, very great networker, doesn't miss a beat, and when she was putting her efforts into the Start Foundation, she reached out to me. Being an amputee, it's quite a small pool of people, as you can imagine. You know, we think about how many amputees do you know, and when you're an amputee, you tend to feel like you know a lot of them. But when you're not, then it feels like there's another world. And Michelle reached out to me and said, Don, we're doing this. You know, you've been an amp all your life. Are you interested in helping us? In what sort of support could you offer? And I said, oh, whatever you need, mate. I'm happy to be involved. And she goes, oh, interested in being on the board? I go, well, guess I am. So, yeah, there we go. That's how that was literally how I become to be on the board and work alongside Michelle and just watch her incredible work ethic. I love what she does, what she stands for, and how passionate she is about creating opportunities. So, you know, when I think of those 2 quotes you mentioned at the start, they're both reflected in most of the things that I'm involved in, to be really honest. And when I see the Start Foundation, you know, creating opportunities and generating grants for people to be able to get an artificial limb, to do more with their life through sport. Like, what is not to love about that? So, yeah,
at the moment, we're all been facing challenges. You know, you faced a lot of challenges throughout your life, but, you know, we've been facing challenges over the last 20 months. And how have you navigated those from being a speaker on the speaking circuit?
Yeah, do you know what? The crazy thing that happened is that when COVID hit, I had spent quite a small fortune setting myself up to really commit to being a full-time motivational speaker, to really apply myself, because up until then I'd always been fortunate that my story related to a lot of people. So whether it was a kindergarten, BHP, or sort of anywhere in between, to be honest, people were able to take something from my story. And, you know, growing up in the bush without half a leg, but with a parents who had fantastic attitude of just to get off your butt and have a crack, you know, don't worry about what's not there, go with what is. It meant that a lot of people could take something from my story and apply it to their life. And that is what I've loved about it. And so I thought, I really want to commit myself to this space. So I'd been in high performance leadership space and facilitating those sort of programs. But when when COVID kicked in, like as a motivational speaker, as any sort of entertainer, if you've got 3 months worth of work fully booked and paid for, then you're in a good space, because that's pretty much it just continues. It sets the trend. And then within a week of COVID, and lockdowns really kicking in, I'd refunded every cent. There was none of this, you're yeah, we'll hold your deposit. I thought, no, stuff that. You've come to me because what I offer. And so this is my chance to stand by what I offer and who I am. So, and I literally had nothing. I didn't have a job. I was in that situation. I thought, right. And then when I thought, as a matter of fact, I actually think I've spent my entire life getting ready for this moment to deal with adversity, because I had absolutely come to terms with the fact that I was going to have to wear an artificial leg, every day for the rest of my life. So that's a card that was being dealt to me, but I actually got really comfortable with playing it. So in terms of a challenge, that was realistically no longer a challenge. But being unemployed, a father of 4, knowing that, there's mouths to feed and you've set yourself in this directory, what are you going to do about it? So first thing I did, like most other people, is I renovated my house. I figured I had all this time up my sleeve, stuff it, we'll fix all those things around the house that we want to do. And then the next thing I did is I thought, right, what am I? There's really no point, pushing for a space that's not happening in my game. So I thought, well, I'll just keep an eye out. I'll be open. And so I started to put, things out there, but not really looking for a job. And then I had my brother-in-law come and say, mate, you after some work? And I thought, no, not really. I want to get paid to do nothing. But if I can't do that, then I'll have a job. What are we talking about? He goes, mate, we're looking for somebody to put pumps in up the bush. We're replacing channels. Are you interested? I said, I am now. So growing up in the bush, you're on the tools all the time. So it was like great to get back to that.
Yes.
And, for the last number of years, my tools have been the microphone. And so it was wonderful to be able to actually get my hands dirty again. And then I was literally only there for a week. And then I had the opportunity to step off the board of Wallara and head up there, or got poached and asked if I would be interested in heading up their online programs for adults with a disability. A lot of the people Wallara support have an intellectual disability. And, as we all know, when COVID forced us to work from home, that's all good and well for people that are versatile and open and willing to do that. But if you're carrying an intellectual disability as your card through life, you're typically not equipped. It's not your go-to just to go and do your day services at home and start functioning from home. So a completely new approach. And I must admit, couldn't be happier with what I get to do every day.
That's fantastic. So where are Wallara based and how long have they been in operation? Once again, that's why I love having these conversations, because I wasn't really aware of them. And sometimes, we go around blinkered in our world because that's our world. And my hope through these conversations is to help to amplify people's stories and connect people with a way they can help, or a way they can pass on Wallara's story to someone they know that would benefit. So tell us a bit about Wallara.
Yeah, the backstory for Wallara is like a lot of disability support organisations. So typically parents, and up until things like the NDIS, the National Disability Insurance Scheme, there's a lot of families that just took the responsibility of looking after their disabled kids. And so you would have parents that get to 70, 80 years of age go, well, who's going to look after my disabled child when I'm dead? That was the straight up question. And so in Dandenong, a lot of parents banded together, went to the council and said, ask this question. And so Wallara was formed in the late 1950s. And then from there, it was always about adults. And the thing that we saw is we are seeing and continue to see this massive evolution of people with a disability in our society. So for many years, there were out of sight, out of mind. And people, you could drive past a special school today and might not even know that there's 100 kids in there with an intellectual disability or a variety of different abilities and going about their life. And when they leave school, then what happens then? where do these people end up? And it's organisations like Scope and Urella and Wallara that are about, and what they do is they provide different programs. So day service programs, they provide work opportunities so people can have a meaningful job. They get a wage, and they get to do a whole lot of things, a variety of things, whether it's picking and packing, whether it's, folding laundry. There's a whole lot of jobs that happen. If you walk down supermarkets, any given supermarket, any day, there's products on shelves that have been picked and packed and touched at some point by somebody with a disability. Mm-hmm. And the wonderful thing is, as long as that is available, then people with disabilities will have meaningful employment. They'll have opportunities to do stuff with their life that all of us seek to do anyway in different capacities.
Yes.
And what I've loved about my time with Wallara is, one is my personal development. To be honest, I spent my life growing up believing I didn't have a disability. My parents said, mate, you've got half a leg miss and you can do what your brother can do. Get off your bum and go and do it. So don't sit around whinging that you can't do stuff. And so what it's been great is, I had my first shake-up of disability in 1990 when my mate said to me, Don, why don't you go to the Paralympics? And I'd never heard of the Paralympics. And so when I said to them, what are they? And they said, they're games for disabled people. I said, well, I can't go to those. They said, why not? I said, I'm not disabled. You've got one leg, you're disabled. So that was the first start of my growth. And then it was getting my butt kicked by people that were missing bits like me. Mm. That was my second part of my growth. And I must admit, my third real part of my understanding about disability was no longer about the amputee side of things, but it was about people in wheelchairs, people with an intellectual disability. Where are the people that have these disabilities that are a massive part of the NDIS that have an intellectual disability? We hear about the Don Elgins of the world because they've got a big mouth and they talk a lot and they're quite vocal. But realistically, when I walk down a street in a pair of shorts, my disability is really obvious. If Dylan Alcott or Kurt Fernley roll down the street, mate, you see them in their chairs. But if somebody with an intellectual disability cruises down past you, and it's not always obvious. And
correct.
Yet, the struggles and the challenges that they have are real. And so that's what I've really loved about the Wallara concept, is that we've got a 40-acre farm in Mornington, and we've got 70 young people come there every day to learn about life on a farm. And so whether it's day services or employment, we've got this amazing support. So in Keysborough, there's a huge place. You drive past Cheltenham Road on Eastlink, and you'll see up to your left-hand side Wallara Logistics, and nice. That's where actually a whole lot of picking and packing takes place for the St Kilda Football Club in that very building. So it's just awesome when people get out of their own way and create opportunities for other people, and particularly when those people have an intellectual disability and wouldn't normally have that support or be able to do it themselves without support.
Yeah, it's such a confidence boost, isn't it? That they can live, do something purposeful. That we've experienced what it's like to be in lockdown and to not be able to get out and get connected. And if that was actually your life the whole time, and you didn't have the opportunity to do something meaningful, then I think there perhaps is more understanding of how difficult that would be.
Yeah, and we've seen it. We've seen it with people struggling, families that are perfectly able-bodied, all of a sudden they've got homeschooling. Well, you imagine homeschooling somebody with really, really complex needs or behaviours that are normally, those behaviours have a place in the world, and they've got people in accommodation, they've got people in day service programs, but all of a sudden that person now is at home 24/7, and cop this, it's the not understanding why we can't leave home. It's the whole complex of the lockdown is one thing for a perfectly able-bodied person to be able to get their head around. You imagine having learning difficulties is like it being punished for what, And so it's been incredible. So when we got Wallara online, and it was formed with a group of just really, really empathetic, awesome coaches to be able to provide something at home, we thought, okay, this is a brilliant lockdown solution. But where I was blown away is is the people that gravitated to the online programs that weren't just in the southeastern suburbs of Melbourne, but were in other parts of Australia, because the programs that we were offering, whether it was numeracy and literacy, whether it was introduction to technology, whether it was building Lego, because that's what you wanted to do and you had a passion for it. When we were able to create those programs, and now we have a sports talk program, we've got an art therapy program, all these online. So imagine somebody with anxiety who struggles to leave the house. Well, they don't no longer need to leave the house and they can still socially interact. So it's been a beautiful journey, to be really honest, for everybody who's been involved in it. And I love it. And it's, we're really just scratching the iceberg. So
fantastic. Well, there's so much fulfillment in helping someone else achieve, even if it's one person at a time. As I always say, it makes such a ripple, because for those families to have their child feeling happier makes everybody's life better, not just the child. So we were talking about that today, because one of my other podcasts was with Ronnie Benbow, who runs the Carers Foundation in Brisbane. And I was talking to my husband about, imagine being a carer and, exactly as you said, trying to support someone at home and you can't actually get away from them either, and they're miserable. So it's such a minefield of discomfort for so many people. So it's fantastic that Woollahra's exists. So
yeah, absolutely. And of course, in our area around Melbourne, there's so many great organisations that are, Bailey House, the Bridge. There's a whole lot of these organisations that we may not know anything about. And it's a little bit like sort of any industry. If you're not in the printing industry, you wouldn't know anything about Heidelberg print. It's if you're not into music, then why would you know about a baby grand? It's all fair and reasonable that we don't know all about it. But I'm about saying, well, what can we do that I don't tend to look at disability. I tend to think about my parents, to be honest, because there's no more two special people in my life.
Yes.
And as they get older, I keep thinking, if we can make life easier for mum and dad, then we're going to make life easier for everyone. Dad hates bloody technology and phones and stuff. I go, well, how do we make that simple so that generation gets to still interact with the little kids? How do we do that? And so, with our introduction to technology program with Woollahra Online, we got one guy, and he literally took him 37 minutes to find the enter key. Now, on a keyboard. Now, in any other organisation, you'd say, we haven't got time for that, move on, or or you get left behind. And that's the beauty about Woollahra Online. We're filling the gap that society continues to create for people with an intellectual disability, that they do get left behind. And we just think that, that's not okay. So I love it that we can call it out and we can change. Just like your beautiful quote at the start, don't be a part of the problem by, just pointing the finger and throwing rocks, buddy. Get off your butt and make some change. And Woollahra's doing that.
It's fantastic. So how many people or clients, or how big is the Woollahra community at the moment? How many clients do you?
Yeah, well, I clients, participants. I mean, people that come to Woollahra, we've got around about 500 participants that come to Woollahra. So whether it's the farm down at Sages at Baxter's in Baxter, Sages Farm, or if it's the logistics building. And of course, that's the geographical space, and a new space opening up in Mulgrave, which is super exciting. And we've got accommodation places around as well. So what you'll often see, or maybe the listeners might see, is groups of people that are just maybe 3 or 4 people that will be with a support worker, integrating and living the life for people with a disability, out and about in our community, going to the footy, doing all these type of things. And what I love around the disability space is that disability doesn't discriminate. So it can happen to anyone at any time. And when it does happen, whether it's an acquired brain injury, an amputation, most of the time people don't know what to do. They're led to believe that their life is over. And the truth is, the life as they knew it was over, but there's a new life about to begin. And if it's not for Woollahra and those sort of organisations, then, I really feel for for people that might be exposed to disability that haven't previously had any exposure to it, because it can be a minefield. But wonderful thing is there's great people supporting people.
And how can people help Wallara? What does Wallara need?
Well, we have a number of different things that we do with Wallara, and one of them is provide opportunities. And all those opportunities, I mean, they cost money. Things like we have our dinner under the stars, and we literally raise money so that we can provide programs. And that's the beautiful thing about a not-for-profit, is it's our intention is to create opportunities for people. And when you get like-minded people going, hang on, how can we support that? Could we donate something? Could we provide some funds that you could use to put a shed on the farm, or, so more people can be involved, or that type of stuff. So for me in the online team, it's about exposure. And, COVID's making it difficult for me to get out to these events to talk to people. But it's about saying, hang on, we know there's something there for, if you might know a family friend and they've got a son or daughter who's an adult and they've got a disability and they're looking for ways to achieve more with their life, then there's every chance we're going to have a program involved with the online community for them to be able to participate in. So, but in terms of supporting Wallara, I would say look us up. Have a look at what we're doing, and then you find what you've got that you feel can connect and fit with Wallara's vision.
Yes.
And don't be afraid to have the conversation. Really, really important is that we don't keep people with a disability invisible. And that was one of the main reasons that we started the Invisibility podcast. Phil Hayes-Brown, the CEO of Wallara, and myself come together to talk to people and with people that are supporting and do have an intellectual disability, so that we can raise that profile and say, well, where are these people? What are the stories? And what can we do to make it better for them?
Fantastic. And what's the name of that podcast again?
That's Invisibility.
Invisibility. Excellent. So I was really impressed when I looked at the website too and thought, my gosh, the programs are incredible. And once again, I didn't know anything about it. And as I said, that's part of my mission, is to help people know that you do exist. And you just never know when somebody needs your help to pass on a referral. And I was once actually involved in some research, and it came out that I'd make a very good ventriloquist, and I laughed at the time. But actually, when you look back, I think it's a bit true, because I am really driven by exposing these stories to help people understand the world, and we learn so much through other people. So thank you so much for all of that. So Don, if you came to a YTM event, you'd get maybe asked a question from the conversation cards. So the question you've got is, what does evolve mean to you?
Oh, great. And you know what? This is what I love about your events and what you do for people, is you get people thinking. Because when you're thinking and you're challenged, then you're growing. And I love that. And so for me, that helps me answer this question in terms of evolve. It's about knowing where you are, where you were, and being willing to go to what's unknown. So because evolving, we don't know what the future is going to hold. No. So as long as we're open to it, then we're going to evolve. So that's my answer for you.
Yeah. And I think it's so true. Like I would never have thought that I could run online events, and having run 7 years of live events, and I've evolved to online events and now these podcasts. So I'm constantly evolving, and in Hunter's language, there's no such thing as ageism. You can just keep learning and growing all the time. So it's just fantastic to connect with you, and I hope this is the start of many more conversations. I hope that we can inspire some people to look into Wallara and see how they may be able to help in numerous ways by the sounds of things, and also just sharing this podcast to people that they think could benefit from it would be another way that we could start that ripple effect.
Yeah, absolutely. And you, Kerryn, like seriously, YTM, the power that you have connecting people and creating conversations, it's just so valuable. So thank you for being you and contributing to what you do to our society. It's bloody awesome, to put it straight.
Thank you. And can you leave us with a quote at the other end of our conversation?
Yes, I have a favourite quote as a former athlete, and this one drove me often. I'm going to leave. Can I leave you two?
Well, I started with two, so that's fair enough.
Right. Thank you. All right. My first one is, if you can't win, make the person in front break the record. And my all-time favourite quote is, attitudes are contagious. Is yours worth catching?
Oh, I like that. I like both of them, but yeah, that's a fantastic one. So Don Elgin, it's so lovely to talk to you, and thank you very much for the time. And what's the website for Wallara?
All the W's wallara.com.au. That's it. www.wallara.com.au.
Wonderful. Thanks, Don. Nice to meet you.
Take care.